Wow, we really appreciate you coming on all the time, Steve. So we'll just, a couple quick announcements. We can only do this because we have great sponsors and SVARW members, okay, to put on these programs. We hope eventually be back in person. We had, 3 in-person events after all the COVID happened. We have to wait till Flames can accommodate us. You know, we were in a tent December 2nd, 75 people, but that worked out good. We called it a protest. So our membership year is January through December. So if you have not renewed your membership, then it's due. What we did in this world of illegal lockdowns is if you joined SVARW last year on or after August 1st, 2020, we made your membership good to December 31st, 2021. Everybody else who has not needs to renew if you have not joined or renewed since August 1st, 2020. If you have any questions, Lisa Sego, right there, she can tell you what your status is. We will have our regular January 27th SVARW meeting. We'll give you more details as soon as we have more details. At this point, we don't think it's going to be an in-person meeting because, I mean, King Newsom is going for deep lockdowns. So we will see.
Until St. Patrick's Day, I'm guessing.
Anyway.
St. Patrick's Day.
And it's not just him either, right?
So anyway, we wanted to tell Steve this morning, and we probably should have told him before, but the SVARW board met on January 2nd, and they unanimously endorsed Steve Frank for chair of the California Republican Party. And Steve is running for chair, and that's going to be in February. And we're counting on Steve to win because California needs Steve Frank. And maybe in your comments, Steve, you can explain to people why this is important if you wish to do that. So we're going on to, I'm turning it over to Wendy Brukwinski, and she's going to take it from here, and we'll be back with questions.
And good morning, and thank you for being here. And as usual, welcome to our inaugural 2021 Friday Forum. And we're very pleased to have Steve Frank join us today. For questions for him, please enter in chat or Q&A, either one, and we'll catch your questions probably afterwards. And with that, I'd like to introduce Steve Frank because he has a lot to tell us and very anxious to hear from him. Take it away, Steve.
Wendy, thank you very much. And I'd like to thank the board for their confidence in me and endorsing me for chair of the State Republican Party. In reality, the State Republican Party has the ability, if it wishes to do so, to register voters, to strengthen the county committees, to sue the state of California for the purpose of getting honest election rolls. Until we get honest election rolls, we can't do that. And the California Republican Party is the legally responsible organization to do that. To sue the state of California on behalf of 5 million registered Republicans. And until we do that, there's no reason for Republicans to believe that the State Republican Party is actually looking for victories in 2022. That being said, there's a lot going on here in the state of California. And before I do that, let me mention that Jan made mention that the convention is going to be in February. We don't know that for sure. We may know more on the night of January 11th when the board of the CRP holds its next board meeting. They were going to have it on the 21st of January, and I found out some misrepresentations by the state party and by the state chair, and demanded that they have a board meeting sooner than that. So they moved it up by 10 days to January 11th. And what are those misrepresentations? I believe, if I'm not incorrect, everybody on this call supports the recall of Governor Newsom. Well, it seems that the state party has sent out minimum of 15 different email blasts raising money to get rid of Governor Newsom. That's a good thing. The problem is the state party gave not a dime to the recall movement to help get those signatures. So while the state party claims it supports it, it's raising money not for the purpose of recalling Governor Newsom, but to pay salaries for its staff. And I called them out on that, and now they're having an emergency meeting on January 11th because they've been caught. One other matter. And in December, on December 7th at 10 a.m., the state Republican Party sent out a email piece asking that the people in California donate to save our 2 Republican senators in Georgia. That was at 10 a.m. on the 7th of December. At 2 p.m. on December 7th, they sent that piece out again, and they raised money to elect the 2 Republican senators in Georgia. So far, they've given not a dime of that money to the Georgia Republican Party, to the candidates, to the Republican National Senatorial Committee. The money has just gone into the general fund of the state party, and of course that goes to pay salaries. And I think it's wrong for a party or any individual to raise money for one cause and then not spend it on that cause and use it for something else. That's just immoral, in my opinion. And that's what they've done with the recall money, and that's what they've done with the Georgia Senate race money. There are probably more examples of that. I'm doing research on that now. But that's why there's an importance to taking back the California Republican Party. We need to make it transparent and make it accountable. Well, I've already begun talking a little bit about the recall. As I mentioned, I just got off a statewide conference call of the leadership of the 3 organizations that are running the recall. Recall Gavin 2020, Cal Revival, and Rescue California. And the 3 separate groups work together and coordinate their activities, and they have a weekly conference call. And so I just got off of that. I'm happy to tell you that we now have north of 1 million excuse me, 1 million signatures. But the better news, the great news, is that by January 31st, we will have over 2 million signatures for the recall. And we will then be able to submit them to the Registrar of Voters and to get the earliest possible election to get rid of Gavin Newsom. And that is just great news. I might add that Rescue California has just finished sending out 3.5 million pieces of mail with the petition to every registered Republican in the state of California. And that's why we're going to be getting the total number of signatures by the end of January. So Cal Revival is continuing to raise money and putting out petitions, and the original group Recall Gavin 2020 has its volunteers in the field, all doing a great job. And so it's a coordinated effort by 3 different groups with one petition, one official petition, to get rid of, as I like to call them, Governor Nuisance. But this is a great moment in California history that we're able to move the ball in regard to getting rid of a governor that is so enamored with himself that he has caused the closing of churches, closing of schools, loss of millions of jobs has made us an unsafe state, forcing major corporations to leave the state in order to economically survive. And that's the legacy of Gavin Newsom. Now, I know that there's something on everybody's mind. What happened in in Washington, D.C. A couple of days ago? I just finished reading an article where the district attorney of Los Angeles, George Gascon, who was put in office by George Soros, is complaining that the police in DC stood aside and allowed the riot to go on. He never mentioned that when Los Angeles had riots, the LAPD stood aside, or in Minneapolis or Seattle or Portland or Philadelphia or Chicago or New York, when riots ensued, the police stood aside. But those were Antifa and BLM riots. That is the hypocrisy of the left. They're so concerned to make us look bad that they don't care about how bad they've acted. And that's something that we need to call them on. What happened on Monday should not have happened, or on Tuesday, I should say. It should not have happened. It was wrong. And it was the type of activity that causes a lot of people to say, I want no part of politics whatsoever. It was a very depressing day. Many people were hurt, both physically and emotionally, and it was wrong. But just as wrong as what happened in Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Chicago, Seattle, Portland, Minneapolis, and other cities. And we should be equally upset with those things. So that's what's happening in on the national scene. I'll be happy to answer questions when we get to the Q&A portion on what's going on in DC. Of course, we now know that the president is no longer going to be president in a few days, but there's a major movement that is a disruptor for all of us. Mark Zuckerberg has taken on himself the censorship of President Trump and not allowing Trump to use Instagram or Facebook. And Twitter is about to do the same. There's a great article in Breitbart today from a Hollywood actress who has said, if Zuckerberg can ban the president, he could ban us. And that's what we are facing. Yesterday, James Wood, the actor, had 15,000 followers taken off of his Twitter account. I was at the Tea Party in Redlands last night, and they've been warned not to put anything on Facebook claiming or giving evidence that the election on November 3rd was anything but honest. Any documentation that they put on there, they were told would be immediately deleted and their account could be suspended. So if we talk about the 3,500 people who voted in both California and Nevada, same people, we could be banned from Facebook or Twitter. If we talk about the 440,000 dead people or people who moved from California who still got live ballots, we could be banned. If we suggest, as I just did, that there's a correlation and that the riot in DC was wrong and the riots in Seattle, Portland, and the other cities were wrong, I could be banned from this. And here's the kicker. YouTube is now taking people off for saying things like, we need to question and audit the elections. That becomes a fascist society. And we are in the process of becoming a fascist society. And I'm doing a story for my newsletter, California Political News and Views, showing that California has now turned fascist. When you have a governor who can close the churches and the schools, we are about to reach a fascist state. When the governor can tell restaurant workers they can't go to work, we're reaching a fascist state. As many of you know, I live in the town of Simi Valley in Ventura County. And one of the great joys I have is going grocery shopping. I love to grocery shop, and it relaxes me and I enjoy it. And so about a week and a half ago, I went to the local Vons, which is Safeway, excuse me, in the rest of the state. And I noticed at the entrance, they had a sign that says, warning, no more than 460 customers at a time in this facility. 460. Diagonally across from the Vons is a Methodist church. They have a limit of 10 people that they're allowed, including the minister. So maybe what the Methodist church needs to do is sell a few ding dongs and some sodas and maybe some sandwiches, and then they'll be able to say, well, we're a grocery store and we can help services. As for me, I note that the Church of Walmart is still open on Sundays while the evangelical churches are closed here in Simi Valley. That's what fascists do. They close down churches. They close down schools. They censor our every word. They try to isolate us. And that's what they've done with this business of isolation of the so-called lockdown. Don't go to gatherings. Don't meet with people. Zoom has taken to stopping groups from meeting on Zoom, excuse me, for fear that they're going to talk about the illegal election on November 3rd. Or talk about ways to take back the federal government. And so Zoom has become an enemy of freedom of speech in the First Amendment. We are living in fascist times, and there's only one way to break it. Only one way. Ignore government, go back to work, open the churches, open the schools, recall school board members that refuse to open our schools, and maybe they'll get the message that we're not listening. When you have a governor of the state of California who thinks like a second grader, who says, you know that the deadly virus is most deadly in the middle of the night, therefore I'm going to have a curfew, you can't leave your house. That's what they do in fascist countries. They lock you up in your house. Now, seriously, does anybody believe at 2 a.m. the virus is more deadly than at 2 p.m? Only a second grader would think that way, or somebody that wants to create a fascist state. And I know that's tough language, but it's about time we talk tough and that we not mealy mouth or use weasel words and just say the honest truth. As many of you know, I'm way too old to be subtle, and I'm going to be very direct. And that's what we need in this state and in this country, are people being direct and saying what the truth is. And it really doesn't matter if we hurt their feelings by telling the truth. Their feelings deserve to be hurt because they're killing off our economy, our families, our spirituality, our education, our future. And if we don't speak up, those of us on this call and others who can't be here today, if we don't speak up, who will? And so it's terribly important that we do so. So what else is going on? You may have noticed that the governor put in a bill for $4 billion to help the people who've been harmed by the virus. Actually, many of them have not been harmed by the virus. They've been harmed by government closing down businesses. next Tuesday, I'm going to get a haircut. Well, that may not be a major deal to anybody. I mean, getting a haircut is just a normal procedure. So I called to make my appointment, and I was told the system I have to use, I have to call them when I arrive. I have to do 3 knocks on the door so they know it's somebody. And then they will take care of me and hide me off in a secret room to cut my hair. That's what America has turned out to be. That's what California is. I said to the lady who was making the appointment, it sounds more like a speakeasy. And do I get a shot of bourbon or scotch with this? And she said, no, they could give me water or coffee instead. But that's what American society has become. We're isolated. We're afraid of going to see other people. So the governor has this $4 billion bill to help those who have been victims of the panic. But in fact, that money is for the victims of government response to the panic. But in the bill of $4 billion, there's $1.5 billion to create more tax credits for people to buy electric vehicles. Now, anybody tell me what electric vehicles have to do with the virus and the loss of millions of jobs, the closing of schools, et cetera. That's how they're using this virus. They're using it for their personal political gain, to help buy votes. This has nothing to do with the virus. It has to do with bankrupting the California people, isolating us, and making sure that we have nothing that we can fall back on because they have taken everything, which is why Oracle, HP, and Elon Musk have left. And by the way, as of this morning, Elon Musk of Tesla is the richest man in America. He has surpassed Jeff Bezos as the richest man. And Bezos is worth $185 billion. And now Musk is worth much more than that. But Musk understands that he has to leave the state. And why does he have to leave the state? Because of the Democrat Party and Assemblyman Rob Banta. Rob Banta has a bill, I think I spoke about it last time, that would tax people who are wealthy for 10 years after they leave the state of California. So Musk had to leave the state prior to that law being passed, and it would also increase by 2% taxes on the rich. Imagine leaving California, and 8 years from now, you're still getting a tax bill that you must pay to the state of California. That's what the Democrats are doing. So you're going to see in the first part of this year an awful lot of businesses close, an awful lot of businesses go bankrupt, and many major businesses, as their leases come up, leaving the state of California. So the executives are no longer bankrupted by the taxes of the state of California. So today is Friday, January 8th, and it's a historic day in California. Today is the day, I believe it's by noon today, that the governor is going to issue his 21-22 budget. And normally this is the biggest story ever in the state on the day the governor presents his budget. But because of the pandemic, or as I like to call it, the scamdemic, because of what happened in Washington with Joe Biden becoming president shortly, with the extraction of money from the taxpayers by the new Democrat-controlled Congress, the fact that we're going to become oil dependent again, the president's going to stop oil drilling in the U.S., stop fracking in the U.S. You've noticed how the cost of oil has gone up in preparation for Biden becoming president, because they know that the oil is not going to be drilled in the U.S. as it has been in the past. And instead of making revenues from the oil, we're going to instead become dependent on terrorist nations for our oil. So that is the budget that we're going to have today. We're going to see how he tries to spend a so-called $26 billion uh, uh, extra money that came in as revenues for the state, most of which did not come in from taxes, but came in from the federal government. And that's an important factor for us to see, that in fact the monies that the state has is actually coming from the federal government. And you can expect another bailout sometime in February or March in the $2 to $3 trillion range to bail out the state of California, Illinois, New York, several other states, and a lot of school districts that are going bankrupt. By the way, as I mentioned, school districts, government education in California, the number of students enrolled have dropped in the last year by 2%, but they're still getting the same money because of the budget. Doesn't matter if the students exist anymore. Until June of 2021, the school districts are going to get full funding based on the March 2020 enrollment instead of current enrollment. So 2% extra going to them. The other major issue is that there are 1.4 million people in the state of California who are unemployed, who Gavin Newsom just stopped getting unemployment checks, sending unemployment checks to because of fraud in his own department. There may be up to 2.3 million people getting unemployment checks in California illegally. And so he stopped almost everybody from getting unemployment checks. This is going to be a major economic disaster for these people who already are in a conundrum because the government stopped them from working, and now the government is going to stop them from getting unemployment checks. This is a major problem for the unemployed. And if there was a way to do it, I would send recall petitions to every one of these people who are unemployed and say, please recall Governor Newsom. He has harmed your family by taking away your job and then your unemployment check. And what is Governor Newsom doing? He's begging the federal government for more money for unemployment when he's not even paying what he has the money to pay for. In fact, some of this money is federal money, and he's violating federal law by not spending the money on the unemployed. But who's going to sue him, and which district attorney or attorney general is going to bring him to court, forcing him to pay what's mandated in the unemployment? So that'll give you a little bit of an understanding of what's going on in Sacramento. As we speak, today and tomorrow and Sunday in Sacramento, there is a conference called Reopen California. We have a whole series of supervisors, health experts, Congressman Tom McClintock, and many others on a variety of panels. It's a great program, and if you Google Reopen California, you could find a place to stream the whole event. It's free. All you have to do is register, which is free. And I think you'll learn a lot from the Reopen California conference. Of course, the county of Sacramento is trying to close it down. Their problem is the sheriff of Sacramento County, Scott Jones, is one of the speakers at the conference and obviously believes that this is the right thing to do. So the question is, which county supervisor is going to try to close this down? Because the sheriff not only opened it, but is a speaker at it. And that's what we need to do, is have the courage of Scott Jones, excuse me, Tom McClintock, and the others, and participate in conferences like this. And I'll be interested this afternoon to watch the panel of medical experts talk about the realities and the truth about the virus, the vaccine. By the way, mentioning the vaccine, 50% of health professionals in Riverside County and Los Angeles County are refusing to take the vaccine. Excuse me. The statewide is 20 to 40% of health professionals are refusing to take the vaccine. So that says something to me. If the people on the front lines who know the worst of the virus are saying no to the vaccine, then of course we should be looking at the efficacy of the vaccine. I saw a great story today where a pregnant woman who's a nurse is refusing to take the vaccine because of fear for what the vaccine would do to her unborn child. There's a lot of questions about the vaccine, but the health professionals, excuse me, are voting with their feet, and they're saying no to the vaccine. It's just something to consider. I'm not for or against the vaccine. I do believe we need to have more information. And so let me quote Governor Newsom on October 19, 2020. He said at that time, "I would not allow the vaccine to be distributed in California until my medical experts gave it the go-ahead." So far, his medical experts have not given it the go-ahead. There's been no study, no report issued by them. Nothing has been done publicly by them. And so the vaccine is still out there. And this is another one of the problems of Gavin Newsom. He makes silly statements, doesn't back them up, and now we're forced to live with the consequences of them. But that'll give you some idea of what's going on in Sacramento. The Assembly and the Senate are going back into session on Monday. They were supposed to go back on January 4th, but they were fearful of being in Sacramento, so they waited a week. Nothing has changed in the last week, and but they're going back on January 11th. They should have been back on January 4th, but they try to make a point that they will isolate themselves for one more week. And actually, in some ways, it's good that the legislature is not in session, but in many ways, it's bad because the governor is allowed to continue issuing mandates and orders, isolating us, keeping us away from jobs and churches and schools and from one another. He has sent his agencies to bars and restaurants that have ignored him and tried to close them down, take away their liquor licenses, take away their the health department permits to operate. We are in a fascist state at this time, and let's not mealy mouth about where we are. We could say the virus is terrible. It is, but we could say government may be worse. I'm doing a story in the next couple of days that people are dying of heart problems much quicker and much sooner because government has pretty much taken over the hospitals for the virus and not allowed the hospitals to do what they're supposed to do, take care of all patients, not just those with one disease or one virus. And that's a sad state of affairs. I know of cancer patients here in Ventura County that are not getting proper care because they can't go to their doctor for treatment or for service. Cancer patients, heart patients are dying because of this fixation on the virus rather than on healthcare. But the good news is, if you're a prisoner, they'll let you loose sooner. If you're a prisoner, you will get your unemployment check quickly. Even if you're on death row of San Quentin, you're still getting your unemployment check. But hundreds of thousands of Californians who deserve quality health care, who deserve to get their unemployment check, they're the ones who are being victimized by the governor of California. So let me spend the rest of the time answering questions that you may have. There's a lot going on. I can only give a summary of some of the major topics. There may be topics that you have that are important that I haven't covered, and I would love to do that. But let me end with this. Again, thank you to your board for your support of my campaign for chair of the State Republican Party and to return it to Republican. Somebody last night asked me the question about me being a conservative, and as chair, who do I represent? And the answer is very clearly, I represent the Republicans in the Republican Party. Thank you very much, Jan and Wendy. Look forward to the questions.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve. Okay,
Wendy,
let's start
go
with,
for it.
we have a comment over here in chat. Many conservatives are saying that they can no longer support the Republican Party, that it's dead. How would you respond? And that's from Ari Goldberg.
There is a national divorce movement going on. Divorce from the Republican Party. We tried that in 1992 with Ross Perot, and that gave us Bill Clinton. And if we leave the Republican Party, and if we stop being activists in the party or join another party, that makes it easier for the Democrats to continue the fascist policies here in California and nationally. I agree with the frustration. I am as frustrated as anybody in regard to the lack of ability to fight back against corrupt elections here in California. But that's because the California Republican Party has not been fighting back. They've been silent. They've refused to do their job of suing the state for illegal elections, for allowing illegal aliens on the election rolls, sending out live ballots to dead people. And I know Democrats do believe that dead people have constitutional rights, but I don't think they have the constitutional right to vote. And our party has been silent.
And
It's not
speaking
enough to say how bad it is, but it's we have to do something.
Speaking of being silent, Ellen Swenson, you put out an article today that Ellen Swenson had written up something about them changing the election laws in California to make it even more transparent, or not transparent, even more secretive. What do you think our approach should be on this?
Under the current law, we are allowed to get the voter registration rolls and look at them. Under the proposal of the Secretary of State, Wendy, if you were to ask for the voting rolls in Santa Clara County, they could say that you're going to use it for illegitimate, fraudulent purposes, and therefore denied the ability to see the rolls. If you can't see the rolls, you can't note the people who are dead, who are still on the voting rolls, or your neighbors who moved 5 years ago to Idaho or Arizona or Texas. And therefore, the voting rolls in Santa Clara County will continue to be illegitimate, but you won't be able to challenge it because you're not allowed to see it. This is the way for them to stop the ability of the people of California to check to see the legitimacy of the rolls. And that's what this is about. Again, that's what fascists do. They fix elections. They have outcome-based elections, which is what November 3rd was. And so this is just another example of the Democrats looking at ways to make it more difficult for honest elections and honest people.
And we need to figure out how to get tough on this. Jan, do you see a question out there you'd like to shoot?
Okay, I've got a question. Well, there's a couple people calling for a new party. How do you feel about that, Steve?
Well, again, it's the Ross Perot Reform Party business, where we make it easier for the Democrats to win. If we break away from the Republican Party in California, if we re-register as members of another party, it makes it easier for the Democrats to win. And as much as I understand the divorce movement, it doesn't work. It works against us. And I would suggest that we're going to start seeing George Soros groups promoting Republicans to lead the Republican Party because it makes it cheaper for him and easier for him to win elections.
It's the Lincoln Foundation.
Excuse
Continuation.
me?
The Lincoln Foundation or whatever it's called.
Lincoln Project,
Project, yeah.
which was financed by George Soros.
Was it really?
Oh, yes. Wasn't Republicans who financed it. Excuse me. It was the Democrat Party and George Soros that financed the Lincoln Project to defeat Trump and to defeat Republican candidates for U.S. Senate. Mike Madrid, and that goes to another issue. Mike Madrid, who's a delegate to the state Republican Party, a founder of the Lincoln Project, has been crowing about defeating Trump and defeating Republicans for the U.S. Senate, including the two in Georgia. At some point in time, we have to get rid of him. A complaint was filed against him with Jessica Patterson back in July, and she's refused to move on that complaint. She has been protecting the Lincoln Project, protecting the pro-Biden delegates in the Republican Party, as if the Republican Party was a sanctuary for the Biden wing of the Republican Party. She's done nothing. She hasn't even condemned them.
Interesting. Okay, Bob had a, go ahead, Jan.
No, I have a question from Ari Goldberg. She said, what percentage of Republican primary elections have no conservatives to challenge the rhinos? What can be done to get more true conservatives to run?
Well, as I found out by calling all the nominees of the party, a lot of conservatives did run this time. The problem is the state Republican Party refused to help the nominees. How could they have helped? The state party has a list of 37,500 volunteers. The state party refused to give the names of those volunteers to the nominees or to the county parties. So we need the state party to stop hoarding and harming Republican nominees. That's what Jessica Patterson did. She harmed Republican nominees by not giving them the names of those who wish to volunteer for our candidates. So the first step is to get rid of Jessica. We need to have a chairman of the party that wants to help Republican candidates, not harm them. Second, there's a list of donors. She did not give the list of donors to any of the nominees. She did not give the list of donors to any of the county chairs. But several months ago, she formed a commission or committee to raise money for the state Republican Party, which sounds reasonable. And she gave the list of donors to Kevin Faulconer, the mayor of San Diego, who's running for governor. While she wouldn't help the nominees of the party, she's helping a candidate for governor with the list of donors.
Not good. Hey, Jim Aaron wants to know who's your competition? Who else is running for GOP chair?
Just Jessica and myself.
Oh, okay. I thought there was a third guy that was stepping in.
There's somebody by the name of David Miller. David is a well-meaning, well-intentioned person. He's for instance, this past week, he announced that he had the endorsement of the recall movement. Well, that's not true. He was when the recall leadership called him, he was forced to take that down because it was just a dishonest statement. Miller meant well. He supports the recall. God bless him, but has nothing to do with any serious race. Again, well intentioned.
Mhm. Jim also says he's heard that state officials in Sacramento are overruling, this is changing subject a little, overruling local authorities for zoning decisions. I think this is mostly to allow a frenzy of building so that housing costs go down, and also to make the population more dense so they can economically implement mass transportation and whatnot. Is that more or less true?
It is true. In fact, the governor is suing the city of Huntington Beach for not allowing affordable housing to be built per his demand. And Huntington Beach said, no, we're not changing the quality of life in Huntington Beach. And so he's now suing them based on this. A bill did pass to allow the state of California to take away the right to zone and permit in cities if they don't allow affordable housing. Yes, they do. The state of California wants your city to look like Manhattan. And that's basically what they're trying to do. And it's not to to help affordable housing, but to help developers who can't get permits to build affordable housing. And so they're going to do lawsuits against cities. My city of Simi Valley had a 230 proposal for 238 houses. Yes, Kevin, stack and pack, Agenda 21. The city council voted no. We're not going to build the 238 apartment complex because the people in the community said no, they didn't want it. And so the city council said, okay, we'll vote against it. Immediately, the city council received a letter from the attorney general, Becerra, announcing he was going to sue the city of Simi Valley if they didn't reconsider. And basically what it's saying is, we will bankrupt you as a city if you don't give the permit. Sadly, the city council was felt that they had no choice but to allow reconsideration, and they gave the permit for the 238 houses or apartments in a location that will destroy single-family housing and the quality of the community. We have just created a slum at the blackmail and extortion of Newsom and Becerra. It's very sad for my community, but this is going on all over the state, not just Simi Valley.
It seems to me that we need to figure out how to coalesce so that we can fight against these things more effectively. Jan, did you have something out there?
Okay, somebody was asking, what are the options? Okay, we recall Newsom. I think we've had this question before, but we got new people on here. We recall Newsom. What options do Republicans have besides Falcone or whatever his name is?
Well, let me explain what's going to happen and who is potentially running in the recall. Under a recall, which we now know will happen, the voters of California will have two issues to vote on in the recall election. One, should Gavin Newsom be recalled as governor? Yes or no? That's the way it's going to be worded. Yes or no? If so, who should who should replace him? And the answer in 2003, 132 people ran for governor. You do not need a majority. There is no runoff for governor in a recall. So who's going to run? Well, so far you have Kevin Faulkner, you have John Cox, you have Diego Martinez, you have Errol Weber, you have Major Williams, and there is a call to get Rick Grinnell into the race for governor. Rick is a Trump appointee as ambassador to Germany. He's a longtime political activist in California. He lives in Palm Springs. And there's been a lot of people who've been pushing to get Rick Grinnell to run for governor. I am of the belief that if Grinnell runs for governor, he will win. First of all, the Trump people will vote for him. Second of all, he is not seen as a typical Republican. Third, he's extremely articulate, very articulate. And as I found out this morning, he is a graduate of an evangelical college in the state, from the state of Missouri. He also is openly gay, and they won't be able to claim that he's just a homophobic Republican. And he's very well educated and experienced in government. And not only was he the ambassador to Germany, but for a short period of time, he was the person in charge of intelligence for the United States, and was the one who released a lot of the fraud of the Russian collusion delusion, all the documents on that. So he would be a very impressive candidate for governor. I was asked last night at the Redlands Tea Party who my candidate for governor would be to challenge Newsom. And the answer is that as chair of the state party, I am not able to endorse, but would support whomever the Republican Party officially endorsed in his endorsing process. So, we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But we do have several very qualified candidates. And let me put it clearly. Any Republican, almost any Republican, is better than Gavin Newsom. At least they're not willing to close down the state, kill our constitutional rights.
There's always that wild card Kanye who could step up too.
Well, sadly, I have to report to you, Wendy, that Kim and Kanye are getting divorced.
I read that. You think that might waylay him or something?
No, you don't want to hear my views on the Kardashians.
No, we probably share the same views.
Let me just point out something. My wife has been watching that show for 13 years. I am forced to watch a lot of that. Have you noticed how they push men out of their lives? How the show is strictly about them, and how much they use men to move ahead? And Kanye, Lamar Odom, Bruce Jenner himself,
Jenner.
Scott Disick, all of them are moved out. This is a family of women that use men.
That's true.
And I remember in 2016, part of the show, uh, the mother talked to Kim. Kim asked, well, who are we supporting for president? And the mother's answer was, well, we're women. We have to support Hillary.
Oh,
So that'll give you an idea.
okay.
And Hillary is
Interesting.
not exactly a favorite of men either. She doesn't like men either. So
Yeah. For a long time.
no, I don't think Kanye is going to run for governor. He seems to be more interested now in his Christian evangelical movement, using music to move the Black community into the conservative community, and I think that's a great thing to do. And I think
And
he'll
let's hope
stay
and pray
with
that
that.
work.
And now
Yeah.
that he won't have the Kardashians uh, playing with his mind, I think it'll be a very good thing.
Yeah. Okay, back to reality. Gail Contreras has put out there that she has a friend, Dr. Dubois Blanc, who is in Contra Costa County here at John Muir Hospital. And she's hoping that you can give some sort of help because he needs a PR person. I don't know if you've heard about this, but there were 3 trauma surgeons out there. Actually, my brother-in-law's brother is one of them, who were removed from the staff at John Muir Hospital because they spoke out against the Contra Costa County lockdown and all of the suicides and drug overdoses and whatnot that it is causing. And by the way, Pete Mazaleski has 9 children and they can't go to school, driving them crazy. But she was hoping that you can put out some suggestions there for PR help, or what can they do about this. And then there's another question about what's going on with Sarah Cody and all these lockdowns. She's our Santa Clara County chief doctor, who thinks that it's very dangerous for us to go to church and whatnot. Where do you see this going? How are we ever going to get out of this? Is it like Dr. Scott Atlas says, it's just going to take civil disobedience to pull ourselves out of it? And what should we be doing?
I disagree with Scott Atlas. It is not civil disobedience when you enforce and follow the Constitution. It is Biden, Newsom, and the others that are being civilly disobedient. Second, when you talk about what's going on in Contra Costa, I had heard stories about that. I have a lot of good support in Contra Costa who have told me about the situation. Have somebody call me directly so I could discuss it with them, because there's a lot more going on that I know about than what you've just described. And
Okay.
so they do need, I don't think they need PR help. They need legal help.
Mm-hmm.
So have somebody give me a call. You guys know my phone number. You can
Yeah.
call me at
Yeah.
805-795-1271. And I'd be very happy to put them in touch with some attorneys that could help them.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Jan, are you seeing something out there?
Well, there's a lot. I don't know if Steve has another minute or two because we're almost at 11 o'clock here.
I'm okay today. Today I'm in good shape.
Okay. I'll combine these two. So I have an anonymous person who says we tried relying on Republicans and this is what we got. We support them and they dump on us every chance they get. I hope you don't expect us Trump followers will support the Republicans next time. Interesting question, because there's a lot of NPPs that are really conservative that went with the Republican Party and feel they got dumped on. And then another comment, maybe you can put these two together, that Republicans this is from Doug, Republicans should promote strong conservatives to win in our primaries versus leaving the party. So maybe you could put those two together.
I agree that we need strong conservatives in primaries to be supported. I agree with that. As far as Trump people not supporting Republicans, no candidate should be supported without proof that they represent the values and principles of the Republican Party. People supported by the Mike Madrids of the world are probably not people any of us would want to support. Now, we were told by Jessica to support Republicans. But when she had people within the Republican Party that didn't support Republicans, like Mike Madrid and others, she said nothing. So there's no reason that Republicans, according to her, have to be beholden to the Republican Party. So to all my fellow Trump supporters, I say that they need to look at candidates as individuals, not as Republicans, and to see where their values and principles are. And did they support the values and principles of Donald Trump? Lower taxes, a secure America, opposition to China, controlling our economics. So you have to ask serious questions of the candidates to make a determination as to whether or not they should be supported and voted for. That would be my answer.
Thank you. Do you have something else, Wendy, or?
No, I thought you were going to cut us off here at 11, but okay, I have one more. Cindy has an illegal friend of a friend who moved back to their country 7 years ago, who got full stimulus checks sent to the old address. How can this happen? What should they do? What needs to happen with all of this money flying around?
Sadly, they need to contact their member of Congress to make sure they get their stimulus checks in at the proper address.
Mhm.
But how do we stop it? We need to support members of Congress and the Senate that understand that the stimulus checks are just a way to buy voters. That's really what that's about. President Trump came in with a $2,000 request, and the Democrats proved themselves to be Democrats. Well, since Trump wants it, we oppose it. And that showed that
Imagine
the
that.
stimulus checks are nothing but vote buying operations. Now, you will see, as I just noticed a little while ago before this call, that as soon as Biden's in office, he's going to give a $2,000 check to buy votes. And this time, Pelosi won't wait months to do it.
Oh, she's probably got it all teed up.
Yeah.
Okay, here's one that I missed. And this is from Jane. Interesting question. When you were talking about possible candidates for governor, how about people like Scott McNeely or Michael Dell or other tech conservatives? What are your thoughts on that?
Mike Odell is a resident of Texas.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I'm not
But
sure
McNeely-
where Scott O'Neilly, which is a
I think
Silicon
he's in
Valley
Atherton.
guy.
Yeah, he's up here in Atherton, I think.
I'm not sure if he's interested in running and where he stands on the issues. Too many of the Silicon Valley people gave money to Biden and to progressive Democrats. So we need to do that. There is a question that was raised on one of the chat things that's flashed up, asking how people could help me in my campaign. My website is frankforleadership.com, and the 4 is the number 4. frankforleadership.com. I would hope that your members are asking nominees and the Santa Clara County Central Committee to be delegates. That would be important. And also, I will tell you that Jessica in 2019 received $40,000 from a group called the New Majority. The New Majority is a moderate to liberal Republican group, and I certainly appreciate everybody being involved. But the money donated to it is supposed to go to defeating Democrats and electing Republicans, and instead 40,000 went to elect Jessica as chair, which has nothing to do with electing Republicans or defeating Democrats.
Sounds like we need to be a lot more careful about where the money goes to.
Well, it goes a little bit further than that. The public affairs director of the New Majority is a gentleman by the name of Tom Ross. Tom Ross is on the board of directors as a proxy for the finance chair of the state party. I'm sorry, for the CalPlan chair of the state party, Tom McNernan. In late September, early October of 2020, Tom Ross Company, Meridian Pacific, received a $5.2 million no bid contract from the California Republican Party to do mailings for the party in regard to Prop 22. So let's see. The New Majority gives $40,000 to Jessica. And then the California Republican Party gives a no bid contract to Tom Ross for $5.2 million.
It's quite a return on his investment.
Aaron Park in his blog, Right On Daily, gave all of these details. Very good investment. Very good. Money that should have gone to defeat Democrats, elect Republicans, instead went to Jessica. And then down the line, 5.2 million in unbid on contracts to Tom Ross's company. Give you an idea about the deep swamp is everywhere.
Yeah, sadly.
Do we have time for one more?
Sure.
Steve?
Sure, sure.
Okay. Here's one I scrolled up and found. Sorry, Brad, I missed this. He's asking, would it be productive or advisable to bring attention to the actions of Zuckerberg, Facebook, by organizing a group in front of the Facebook headquarters? Because you know they're here, right?
The only way that is productive is if you have a large enough group and you put it on Parler or Gab, because Facebook won't allow it.
That's true.
But that's part
what
of the answer, part of making it valuable. The other reason it becomes valuable is that it shows conservatives that we're willing to fight back. Let me tell you a story I heard last night. There's a lady by the name of Quita Mitchell. I don't know if any of you heard of her. She's a very famous DC attorney, very famous and very conservative. And she did part of one of Trump's lawsuits. She is a partner in a DC law firm. The left went to a whole bunch of businesses that are clients of her law firm and said, if you don't get rid of her, we will stop being your clients. They got rid of her. We need to do the same on the other side.
Cancel
We
culture.
need to make it an economic disaster for Facebook and others to ban Donald Trump, to ban the Tea Party of Redlands, to have Zuckerberg say that Trump is banned on Instagram and Facebook, that YouTube could get away with banning Dennis Prager. They do it to us. I'm suggesting that we just publicize what they do and say we are no longer going to be clients of Facebook or Gab or YouTube or Instagram, that we are moving our business elsewhere.
January 20th. That's the day that I cut the cord.
Well, SVARW is already posting our videos on Rumble. So you won't get cut off, or any of our speakers.
Well, we need to publicize that SVARW is on Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
I would be, if you were to do a story, Jan or Wendy or somebody else, that you guys have moved to Rumble, that you guys are doing Parler and whatever else, and why, the California Political News and Views would be happy to publish that story.
Done. Be happy to do that. That's good.
We need to, it's not enough to do something. We really have to publicize what we're doing.
Right.
To let other conservatives know, other Republicans know, you have an alternative. I went to Gab last night during this meeting, and they have been flooded with new people. They had a hack attack, of course. They have added new servers, and they're now able to take as many people as want to be on Gab. Parler has had the same situation. I don't know about Rumble having the same situation, but we need to give the alternatives. I will presume, and one should never presume much, I'll presume President Trump is going to announce, either shortly or just after the 20th, that he has moved to another platform. And we're going to start seeing conservatives moving away from Facebook, which means the value of their ads go down. The value of the ads go up on Gab and Parler and Rumble. And we will see a whole new world. But it's going to take our efforts to make those switches and changes.
Mm-hmm. That needs to happen desperately.
Yep.
Well, this has certainly been an interesting session today. There's so much going on.
I think Cheryl Martinez wants us to emphasize, some people have this idea that they can sign the recall petition multiple times. And we need to explain that this is a disaster if you do this.
Right.
And you want to explain why it's a disaster?
Well,
Why it's a problem?
what happens is the registrar of voters in your county will verify signatures. And when they see your signature is duplicated, they will delete both signatures. That's one of the reasons we need to submit a minimum of 2 million signatures in order to qualify 1.495 million signatures. It doesn't do any good to sign a lot of times. It is harmful. It also harms us in submitting the signatures, thinking we have enough signatures when we don't. Now, I will tell you, we go through a verification process as well. And that's why we know our verification is approximately 82 to 83%, when normally it is a 75% verification rate. The good news is we have sent out, Rescue California has sent out 3.5 million pieces of mail. And when you get mail signatures, the verification rate is between 85 and 90%. So that is a much better return. Cumulatively, we do expect with all of this, and there's other things going on I haven't even mentioned, there should be around 2 million signatures, which means we should be able to receive the 1.5 million signatures.
Now it's still Recall Gavin 2020 to download the petition, right?
That's correct.
And even though it says 2020, you just cross out the 2020 and put 2021.
Right.
And people, if you have not done this, please do so. It's recallgavin2020.com. Download the petition, print it, sign it, and mail it back in. If you don't want to mail it back in, let me know and we'll come pick it up and mail it in for you. Whatever it takes, get the petition signed, please, and only once. Anything else on there, Jan?
I don't.
Well, I thank you very much for the opportunity of speaking to the group today. Again, I thank you for the endorsement. I've certainly enjoyed today, especially. It's been a good look at a lot of the questions.
California Political News and Review.
Yes, make sure you're signed up for Steve's. I mean, I don't know where the Energizer Bunny has the time to publish his California Political Review 6 days a week. So
We love that he does.
Yeah, they could go to capoliticalreview.com to subscribe, and it's a free subscription.
Free and very informative. There's scary stuff in there every day that we need to be aware of. You know, it dawned on me, we can no longer, I miss my days of innocence back when I voted against Hillary because she took money away from the people in Haiti that was supposed to be for their earthquake relief.
Right.
And she had the nerve to flaunt national security laws about classifications.
Yeah.
Little did I know how bad things were. I really miss those days of innocence.
Yeah. Well, I better get going here, but
Thank you.
again, thank you very much.
thank you so much, Steve. We
So much.
appreciate it.
Okay. God bless.
All the best to you. Thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay,